everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Gita Mary and today I have another impact analysis. Recently something really interesting happened that was on all social media platforms, I feel like. I subscribe to a lot of news platforms specifically about environmentalism and, eco-awareness of all kinds, and it was everywhere. I also posted on Instagram whether or not you guys wanted more like an explanation, deep dive, etc. Understanding sort of the impact of what has happened. I'm talking about like it's super dramatic. It's something that happened to a business. Okay. Anyway, from what I could gather, a lot of people were excited about it, but also confused. And from my own perspective, a lot of the media coverage I saw of this thing was very only positive, only like the good parts of it. And nothing is inherently always only perfect. And I think for this video, I want to create a deeper understanding of what is happening and in what system it's happening, etc. So generally, overall, we're more well informed. Anyway, this video is about Patagonia. Patagonia is an outdoor activities and clothing company founded in 1973 by Yvon Chouinard. Since its foundation, the company has grown exponentially with a worldwide customer base, and today it's valued at around $3 billion. The net worth of the founder is about $1.2 billion. And the reason why Patagonia is trending right now is because the founder gave the company away to the planet. But what does that really mean? Today we're gonna take a look at what that actually means and how you do that. And also we're gonna talk about if this thing is better than other billionaire charities. Overall, Patagonia has a more ethical and sustainable supply chain than conventional fast fashion. They monitor their supply chains, they pay workers fair wages, they're both fair trade and B Corp certified, and they're definitely doing a lot of things to distance themselves from the fast fashion industry. They use a lot of low impact materials and they're also implementing a lot of carbon reduction activities. So far, so good. However, a lot of these implementations and actions are not guaranteed throughout the entire supply chain of Patagonia, but more so focused on the last final stages of the supply chain where it's administratively easier to track problems and fix them as they arise. It's very difficult to do that continuously and in the same pace throughout the entire supply chain. And there is a tendency to focus a lot more, not only from Patagonia, but generally speaking with ethical and sustainable brands. It's a lot easier to monitor and guarantee ethical labor and sustainable practices in the beginning of supply chain, and it becomes a lot more difficult the longer the supply chain is. And that's also the case here. As I mentioned in my previous video about billionaires and the impact of billionaires, there's no such thing as an ethical billionaire, and I definitely stand by that. There's no way that you can hoard billions of dollars without exploiting others while doing so. And I talk about this a lot because it bothers me greatly and to an unimaginable extent. But the $1 billion is a lot of money, unfathomable. Really, it's a lot of money. So if you want to know more about the ethical implications of hoarding this type of money and the impact of people hoarding this type of money overall, check out the previous video. I'm pissed in that video, by the way, just let it be known, there's bad juju. On Wednesday, the 14th of September, Patagonia published this on their website stating that Earth is now their only shareholder. While we're doing our best to address the environmental crisis, it's not enough. We needed to find a way to put more money into fighting the crisis while keeping the company's values intact. One option was to sell Patagonia and donate all the money, but we couldn't be sure a new owner would maintain our values and keep our team of people around the world employed. Another path was to take the company public. What a disaster that would have been. Even public companies with good intentions are under too much pressure to create short-term gain at the expense of long-term vitality and responsibility. Truth be told, there were no good options available, so we created our own. And I honestly like that they're taking us through a little bit of the decision-making process, explaining some of the other options that were available and why they didn't choose to do those specifically. There's of course a lot more detail to this and a lot more to dive into, but I definitely like that they're showing a little bit of the work here. Also, if another company would have said the same thing, I would have been more skeptical. If a company that had no prior history with corporate activism and environmentalism said these things, I would be more skeptical for sure. But environmental environmental activism and corporate activism is not new to Patagonia. It's actually been a very thorough part of the essential being of the company since its foundation. And in 2017, the company sued then President Donald Trump over his administration's move to drastically shrink 2 national monuments in Utah. The company also emerged as one of the most vocal corporate opponents of Trump's environmental policies. And in 2021, the Patagonia CEO Ryan Gellert called for companies to join the brand in pressuring Facebook into fixing its platforms. And the company donated $1 million to voting rights groups in Georgia. Like, I like what I'm seeing, I do. The option Patagonia has then come up with involves them giving the company away to 2 trust/non-profit organizations, one of which being the Patagonia Purpose Trust and the other being Holdfast Collective. All the money that doesn't go back into the company, reinvesting it in the company, will go to these trusts that can then donate them or spend them on environmental causes. The Patagonia Purpose Trust will own about 2% of the company's stock, and the Holdfast Collective will own 98% of the company's stock, and it is estimated that they will be able to donate about $100 million annually to these charities. As such, the company is staying intact and nothing from a consumer perspective will actually change. The company will still produce the same way they did before, and the CEO will be the same, and the family will still have a lot of power over how the company is presented and how it's put together, etc. So nothing from our perspective really changes. The only thing that really changes is where the money ends up once you support the company. As I mentioned in my previous video about the impact of billionaires, there is one very important reason why almost all billionaires donate to charity, and it is taxes. Because donations to charities are tax write-offs, which means that a person that's super wealthy or a company that makes a lot of money can donate large sums of money to a charity while still actually continuously making more money for themselves. Don't even get me started on the giving pledge. So I won't get started on that. Sure or not is keeping all the power of the company within the family, and in that process he's actually also saving $700 million in taxes. There's more to it than that, obviously, but that's the tea. Before we go into that again, I want to return briefly to the structure, the nature of these trusts and organizations that will then be receiving the money from Patagonia, because there's something worth noting here, and it's going to be a little bit technical now, but bear with me, this is actually really important. 98% of Patagonia will now be owned by Holdfast Collective, which is a 501c4 organization. One second. This type of nonprofit is free to make unlimited donations to political charities and trusts. They can also lobby for or against legislation and use their resources for political purposes. This is unlike the 501c3 type of organization, which cannot do these things. It's a public charity, and thus they cannot get politically involved. Patagonia, on the other hand, can through these trusts. The type of non-profit Holdfast makes it ineligible for income tax deductions, which means that the founder will owe about $17 million in taxes, in giving taxes, because he transferred money to the trust. However, he won't have to pay federal gains taxes, and that is where he would potentially be saving $700 million. So he would have had to pay $700 million if he had sold the company instead. In an interview, a spokeswoman from Patagonia stated that tax avoidance was never requested by the founder, and overall Patagonia actually has a really good track record of actually paying their taxes. And furthermore, they're also one of the companies that are advocating for increased taxes. So it might very well be genuine that tax avoidance wasn't really a part of the decision making when figuring out what to do with the company. It's just a lucky coincidence, I guess. So why wouldn't Patagonia simply hand over the money to an organization that's a public charity, you know, the 501c3 instead? That might be beneficial in some areas, but there is a reason for this. First of all, the US government makes it really difficult for this type of organization to own private companies as is. As such, I think the reason why the C4 was chosen and not the C3 is because that the founder wanted to keep the company intact. Also, with the C3 structure, you wouldn't be able to spend the money actually fighting climate change, because fighting climate change, environmentalism, is inherently a political issue, and you will need to engage in politics in order to do that properly. So that if that's the entire point of giving the company revenue away anyway, it makes sense that it's the C4 because you have to fight this battle on political ground. Related to this, but on a more overall note, I think it's important to talk about the impact of ultra wealthy people gaining political power as a whole. Because while Patagonia seems to be doing something good with the money, fighting climate change, supporting environmentalism, we love to see that, there is the issue of ultra wealthy people using their money to gain political power and to shape and create the political landscape. At best, it's a faulty system, and at worst, it's completely undemocratic. Patagonia's founder is 83, and with the money he's putting into these trusts, they will be able to carry out his vision and his agendas and be used sort of as a third party, making political votes on his behalf way after his death. And that's problematic that some people are able to do that. Overall, I think it should be noted that I am excited about what's happening. I am excited about the amount of resources going into environmental causes. But I think it's important to be able to criticize the system that allows for that to happen, because so often it's used to do the complete opposite. And just because it's happening in a positive direction right now in this tiny instance, the overall system is still incredibly faulty, and we should still be able to look at that critically and skeptically. The permanent legal structure of Holdfast Collective prohibits the foundation from acting outside or beyond the wishes of its founder, and that is problematic. It means that someone has a political vote generations after they're gone, potentially. And you might wonder, well, can that be used to do the opposite of good things? Can that be used to do detrimental and destructive things? Yeah. Yeah. Just this year, the San Francisco businessman Barry Seed donated his $1.6 billion corporation company to a trust that has the same structure, a C4 organization, which has the same structure as what Patagonia is doing with their trusts. And the trust that this guy is donating to, the trust that will create a political vote and political power for this agenda specifically, mainly advocates for restriction of abortion accessibility. Don't get me wrong, I think it's amazing what Patagonia is doing, but the system that makes that possible also make it possible for trusts and organizations to uphold the agendas of fossil fuel companies or bigoted policies and just all the other things. And that's happening to a much larger degree than the opposite. So is what Patagonia and the founder is doing, is that better than other billionaire type of charities? There are inherently problems with the economic structure of ultra wealthy people being able to utilize their money for political gain. That is inherently a problematic issue. And honestly, I'm quite excited to see how Patagonia is going to navigate this system. I'm excited to see the level of transparency that they are going to apply and utilize in their donations, because more often than not, we hear a bunch of people that are super wealthy that are donating a lot of money, extravagant amounts of money, to charities, which seems amazing, but then there is often no follow-up, or you will never ever find out what this money did or what kind of difference the money made. Because a lot of donations, not specifically Patagonia, hopefully, but a lot of these donations made by billionaires are PR stunts and tax write-offs. Yes, she is indeed a cup half empty kind of girl, but I think it's healthy to have a certain level of skepticism and be able to critically look at these systems that are upholding ultra rich people and giving them more power also to decide over taxpayers and the environment. Overall, Patagonia is putting their money where their mouth is, which is amazing to see, and I hope a lot of other companies will follow this example and do more things and think outside the box in terms of how we can help the planet and how we can utilize resources to combat climate change. But I think it's also incredibly important to stay skeptical of the systems that are allowing this to happen in the first place. And with that being said, that was it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you liked this video. If you have any other perspectives or things you would like to add, leave them as a comment down below. Let me know how you like this video. Please like up this video, that would make my day. And also please subscribe to this channel, that would also make my day. I'm also here to remind you that I have a book and it's out, and you can find the links down below if you want to see where you can get it. It's called Sustainable Badass and it's a zero waste survival guide. Thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day and I will see you guys next time. Take really good care of yourselves. Until then, bye.